You're listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series that syndicates for the A-List Online, and my name is Andrew Mackay-Smith. The interview subject I have coming up for you, and I never thought I'd say this, but here I go. It's Michael Schenker. Now, I'm a lifelong fan of hard rock and heavy metal, and let me tell you, there's no more important a figure in guitar playing to hard rock and heavy metal than Michael Schenker, and you'll hear that through the conversation. The purpose of the chat, though, is to promote his brand new album for 2019. It's called Revelation. We don't actually talk about that, though. I'll let you know that now. But if you can seek it out on iTunes or YouTube and all of the places that music is streamed, do check it out because it's a sterling affair. Of course, it includes some of the greatest vocalists that he's working with, such as Graham Bonnet and the excellent Robin McAuley. But without further delay, here he is. Michael Schenker. Michael, it's Andy Mackay-Smith calling for our chat. How are you going?
Hi, I'm doing good, and how are you?
I'm very good, and I've got to tell you, mate, I've been looking forward to this chat for quite some time. It's a real thrill and a privilege to finally talk to the great Michael Schenker. I mean, it honestly truly is. I know you probably hear this a lot, but I was so excited to get an opportunity to chat to you.
Oh, thank you so much.
You know, the first thing I want to do, and I'll kick off now. The first thing I want to do is acknowledge how important you have been in the timeline of rock and heavy metal. So again, I'm sure you've heard this all before, but let me go through it. You're the link between Ritchie Blackmore, then Iron Maiden and Metallica. Now, Michael, I hope you work with me here when I say this, but if you hadn't been a guitarist, then heavy metal, I'm talking about rock and heavy metal, wouldn't sound the way it does today if you hadn't picked up the guitar. But that said, even in your own right, you've carved an extraordinary legacy as a guitarist in any genre. So you're alongside the great Alan Holdsworth, Ritchie Blackmore, Tony Iommi, Jimmy Page, and of course the master, Jimi Hendrix, as one of the all-time great guitar innovators. So I've laid this on you, mate, so I'm going to invite you to comment now.
Well, the thing is, I started as the first part of my life. I started like a kid in a sandbox. I was just, having fun. I didn't expect anything. I didn't compete with anybody. I didn't look for anything. I didn't expect anything. I didn't look for fame. I didn't look for success. Nothing. I was just playing my guitar like a kid in a sandbox, playing, having fun. And one day, by the time we got to Strangers in the Night, more and more people were saying, Michael Schenker is God. And I said, what? It's like I had no clue what I created there. And then Rudolph was calling me up in the early 80s. Hey, Michael, they're all playing your guitar style over here in the States. Unbelievable. I said, what? And so for me, for somebody who did not focus to expect anything or to end up anywhere, I never, when I received my first award, I was blown away. I never thought I would be getting anything anytime, But I learned everything. I found out about everything much, much later in life because, after Strangers in the Night and after I helped the Scorpions with the Love Tribe album, opening the doors for America for them, I had experienced enough fame, and I was grateful that I experienced it so early in life, so that I was able to make a decision between staying in the lane of fame or kind of focus on my focus on being an artist, things that I needed to get. By the time I finished with the Strangers in the Night, my first chapter was basically done. My first part of development as a guitarist and being in that particular kind of a scene, that was done. And then I wanted to carry on. I wrote Lights Out. Which became the first hit in the United States of America when I was 21 in 1976. And I ran away because I thought, shit, now it's going to be all pressure. I have to write hits. I have to do this. I have to do that. All of a sudden I felt like the fun was over. But I carried on until Strangers in the Night. And then and then I wanted to drop out. I wanted to find an unknown singer and just have fun. And I was, bubbling with creativity so much. I just wanted to experiment with music, getting things out of my system, and just focus on life itself. What I did in the first part of my life. It was completely unconscious. I have no clue where this came from. I feel like I didn't do anything for it. Because I was just having fun. It was like unbelievable that later what an impact it had on people. And so in the middle years, I wrote Into the Arena, and also the first song I ever wrote was In Search of Peace of Mind, which actually, I'm 15 years old, there is a lead break in that song. There's nothing wrong with that. And I don't know where that came from either. Okay. The rest on that album, you can hear me developing as a kid, as a guitarist. But that one lead break on In Search of Peace of Mind, I had no idea. It's so hard to copy because I'm going to be playing it maybe in the 20th or the 50th anniversary. It's kind of amazing. I don't know where it came from, and that I was able to do that. And but what was the point? The point was that the middle years were the most rewarding parts of my life because I was always very stage fright, and it made it very difficult, to go on stage without a drink. But even though every musician I know goes on stage with a drink before they go on stage, but I really had to, and I was very shy and very fragile and stuff. And so, but the middle years, they made me, that's what I wanted to say. I've got In Search of Peace of Mind was the very first song I ever wrote. The Scorpions credited themselves for it. They were 6.5 years older. I was 15. They were already 21. So they already took advantage of me then. But, I wrote it inside my mom's kitchen. There was nobody else there. That was it, And that was the first written song. And it got the title In Search of Peace of Mind. I've got 2 tattoos on my back of my shoulder. One says Born to Overcome, and the other one says Born to Be Free. So if you put all 3 pieces together, you understand where I'm coming from. So that's why the middle years were very important for me in order to fulfill that destiny, And so the middle years were, to overcome. Period. I was very thirsty for learning. I did breakthrough programs. I was in the school of life full time, big time. And I enjoyed it. It was fantastic. And as an outcome of that, 2008, something said in me, Michael, I want to be on stage. I went, what? Where is that coming from? I realized that the middle years, made a complete. Turned me around 180 degrees, and completely formed me, made me starting to understand who I was in the beginning, who I am in the first place, and so what I put on hold, what I unconsciously developed in my first part of my life, I can now in the third part of my life continue consciously and enjoy it on top. Because, I am not stage fright anymore. I don't need to drink to go on stage, and I can have fun and so much more fun than ever before. So, a very peculiar life design, and so the thing is that is my my focus was pure self-expression. 17 years old, I decided not to copy anybody anymore and not to listen to music. So I've been consuming music for over 50 years. And so my understanding intuitively was, that why should I copy something that somebody else is already doing? This person is already doing it. Why should I be doing it? So I also realized that every person is unique. So I kind of realized if I do it the way I see it, which nobody knows what I see unless I release it, so when I make the choice to reveal some of my insights, how I see it, I can add new, fresh colors to the world. And that's what I did on a daily basis. And as a byproduct, I created my own guitar style. And I think that's what it was that people got so attracted to, because some people said, later I found out, that they never heard anything like that before, you know? And of course they didn't.
No. Yeah, you're right. You're spot on.
It was self-expressed, you know? So every person who makes that choice will add something to the world that has never been heard before, as long as it's done from within themselves, you know? Of course, you can't do it perfect, you know, but you can do it as good as possible. You know, for instance, I go to a boutique somewhere in France, try on some clothes, and then they play the whole Metallica album. That's how I discovered The Unforgiven. Beautiful song, you know? And so you cannot escape those moments, but you don't focus on it, you don't consume it, you don't analyze it, you don't go there, you know? Of course, it's going to be on in the lobbies, in the pubs, and somewhere, but, you know, I do a lot of driving. I never have the radio on, so I don't even have a record player or anything. I never had. I chucked it out when I was 17, 18. So the thing is that my passion is pure self-expression and the discovery of, if being an artist, basically, you know, self-expression. And there is nothing wrong and nothing right, you know. Uli John Ross, he was trying to tell me, you know, a while ago, like, Michael, no, that's not right. This is like that. I said, and then I made up something that was, I don't know where that came from either. On the spot, I made up a rhyme to him and said, hey, listen, Uli, musically speaking, there is nothing right and nothing wrong. Do your thing and stay strong. It came out of nowhere.
Nice.
And then I was actually able to translate it into German straight away. There's nichts ist falsch, nichts ist richtig. Du mach dein Ding, das ist wichtig. And it's unbelievable. It just came out of nowhere, on the spot, you know. And
nice.
So people always think, you know, in music, if you're an artist, you can't do anything wrong, you know. It's all self-expression. There's nothing wrong. It's just you expressing yourself. How can that be wrong?
But Michael, let me tell you, and this is really important, okay? And I don't know whether you've got feedback this directly before. Let me give it to you now. If it wasn't for you, there'd be no Metallica. If it wasn't for you, there'd be no Metallica. I'm 41, right? So I've been following Metallica for a long time. Okay, and in terms of you doing your own thing, if you hadn't done your own thing and not listened to anybody else and just decided to create your own groove, there'd be no thrash metal. There'd probably be no metal after 1981 the way it sounds now. Let me go a bit deeper and say that. I mean, I've read about your travails with stage fright, and I really felt some deep empathy for you because you're such an extraordinary guitarist that, as I say, man, if it wasn't for you, there'd be no Metallica. And I think the guys in Metallica acknowledge that. I mean, I just watched the video on that metal show that's posted to YouTube where you and Kirk Hammett interact. And I've seen, as I say, James Hetfield wear the Michael Schenker group T-shirts. Back in the day, there's old photos of him wearing these things, man. I mean, you are a crucial cog to heavy metal and hard rock. Without you, mate, it doesn't happen afterwards. So anybody giving you any advice, present, past or future, guess what? You're Michael Schenker. You're going to do your own thing.
I have come to a realization as well at this age and looking back that because there's two choices you make in life. You either looking for fame and success and be, wanting to be part of that whole trend to get a piece of the pie, which means you have to stay and do exactly what everybody else is doing, what is currently successful and makes money. Okay? The other one is to just do something, and you might even enjoy it. That's fine, The other way is that to do what you what your heart feels you enjoy, regardless if it is going to be approved by others or not. Just do what you enjoy, and just so you can be happy, because nobody else is going to make you happy. That's where you get the happiness from. It's so basically what you just said. People, I don't know how many people there are that do what I do by creating from within and have that realization,
exactly.
and stop copying and adding new colors. But I know one thing. I walked into this rehearsal room. I've made one record. It goes from one riff to another. I could have made 5 albums out of it. That's how much information was on there. I walked into a rehearsal studio. I heard some of those similar riffs, And so what I'm saying is that I think, because I'm very open in interviews, I always express that my freshness and, that I, because I write from within, I always, and I tap into the spring of infinity, of creativity, the endless. And so I never get stuck. I never get writing block either, because I'm not following that trend. So what people do is they recycle a trend, and they recycle that trend, and they cycle that, and they recycle it until there is nothing left, and it's dead. And what I realized is that I think people help themselves to tap into my creation, because there's 60, 70 albums out there. There's albums out there people don't even know it exists. There is so much creativity. Yeah. But the hardcore fans and the musicians that are aware of me, they know that. And I wouldn't be surprised if some people help themselves and try to, instead of getting stagnant. So what I'm saying is, what you just said, I think one thing, like I said, I don't know how many people there are like me doing what I do, but I think music would have been more stagnant today because people would have worn out a trend and would not have invented anything new. And I think there are musicians out there, they know that I have access to the infinite spring, a well of spring, a spring of the
creativity.
Yeah. They know that, and so I think they always channel from there and add it to the trend and keep the trend alive, so it doesn't look give freshness to a trend. Just in little bit of injections, just a bit at a time. I think that's what I kind of realized kept rock music alive longer than it would have if maybe I wouldn't have been there.
No, I agree totally. But I guess to refine my point is that rock music and heavy metal was going along on a certain stream, like if it was a river, it was going along on a certain track, and there was a fork in the road, and you were the fork in the road. So until you came along, it was going down a certain river, and then when you came along and started playing, you changed it. But people don't realize that. They don't realize how influential and important you are.
I see what you mean. I think it's kind of funny because Markus Steiger, from the head of Nuclear Blast in Germany, he was in a thrash metal metal band, and he said I was his instrument, I was his influence, If it wasn't for me, and I kind of, it's pretty incredible that what kind of music came out of that people who say that they got influenced by me, and when I look at what kind of music they make, it's kind of funny. But there's exactly what you just said with the fork, I kind of opened up other possibilities of going different directions.
You did, mate. You absolutely did, and it's such a privilege to talk to you. Really, I might be a journalist, but I'm also a fan, and I have to recognise the great master, and that's you. That's you. I mean, there's you and Richie. In terms of people that are alive and that I can talk to, it's yourself and Richie Blackmore, mate. If it wasn't for you two, we wouldn't have heavy metal the way it sounds, the way it does today. And that includes, mate, and let me tell you how important you are, okay? So I'm going to go even deeper here. If it wasn't for you, there'd be no death metal. There'd be no black metal. Okay, there'd be no metalcore, no deathcore. It wouldn't have evolved the way it sounds like right now. And it's such an important point to make because your guitar playing, when you first came out, it took it up to that next level where it could still remain something that was very unique. It was still very unique, but at the same time it was melodic. You could hear everything that you were doing, but it was heavy. It was something that if you weren't into rock music or heavy metal, you probably shied away from. And let me tell you, I can't tell you how many genuinely like virtuoso guitarists that I've spoken to who cite you as their primary influence, and one of them was the late great Ralph Santola. I spoke to him twice. You know, the guitarist from Deicide and Iced Earth, and man, and these guys themselves influence other people. So, man, we've spoken about it a little bit, but you can't labour the point enough, in my view, that if it wasn't for Michael Schenker, music wouldn't sound the way it does right now, because people wouldn't have all of these wonderful artists that have taken what you established as the template.
Yeah, I think maybe my earphones run out of power.
Oh, right, okay. Are you right to keep on talking, or do you want to move on to the next interview? Because I'd love to keep on chatting.
I didn't know that they only have that much, because the quality with those wireless earphones is really, really good for interviews, and that's why I insist on using them. But I had this happen before, so I know on the normal with my ear on the speaker. I mean, not on the speaker.
I get what you're saying. Yeah,
I'm charging them now. So, but anyway, carry on.
But I really hope you caught what I said before, because it's so important that I want you to understand this, Michael, that if it wasn't for you, extreme metal, heavy metal, death metal, whatever you want to call it, it wouldn't exist if it wasn't for you playing the guitar the way that you do. And I hope hope you've had that feedback.
This is a pretty interesting what you call it, a realization of yours. Actually letting me in on that. I never actually have gone that far, to be honest. And so you kind of made me realize something, that I didn't even go that deep, because I just kind of up to this day I just focus on the now, and I just focus on treasure hunting. I don't call it play. I don't call my guitar playing I don't call it practicing. I call it play and discover, like a treasure hunting. You enjoy the journey because you're going to find a piece of gold, and then when you find one, you kind of make it, put it in a very special place, and you collect those pieces. That's what I do, and that's how I write my songs and stuff like that. But the thing is, I must say though, that if it wasn't for I'm just trying to make a point that I'm just a part of a link. If it wasn't for Jeff Beck, Jimmy Page, and Eric Clapton, and all the late '60s guitarists, I don't know what would have happened, but they all the great ones in the late '60s, they inspired me. I went guitarist hunting, in the late '60s, and there was no song for me that I wanted to hear unless there was a solo in it. So it was kind of funny, and and so Leslie West, he played one of the most beautiful solos I have ever heard. With the theme of the imaginary Western, and so nothing wrong with that, timeless. I just heard it the other day, so coincidentally, it's just fantastic. And so basically those guys, how I see it is, they were doing something that Jimi Hendrix I was never really that that interested. I was more into that melodic stuff, that Jeff Beck did, and especially Jeff
Okay.
Beck,
Yep.
and so for me it was just kind of more that Jimi Hendrix I discovered later. How long the Watchtower. I don't know why it took for me so long, but all of a sudden I realized how beautiful the guitar playing was, and but somehow the other things were pushed to the foreground before, and so I discovered Jimi Hendrix later, but never really got too deep into it. But I know there's some incredible, remarkable stuff that he did, but the thing is, we are all links, and we all link each other. And, but I just have that one thing that, there's also a lot of guitarists that, my partner calls them what was it called? Patchmaker or
Yeah.
patch.
Yeah. You link everything.
Like, you just take something from everybody and put it all together and then make it yours, just like patch it all together.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't even know who is doing it and who is doing it not, because I don't even know what's out there. So I probably would be very impressed if I would be listening to somebody who does that. I would probably say, wow, what is this? This is incredible, because he would be playing all those great guitarists in one person,
Yeah.
It would be very impressive for me, and I wouldn't even know it was just Patch.
Mate, you're a legend. That's all I can say, and it's certainly a privilege to talk to you. It's just you're actually the guitarist that I've had on my bucket list alongside Trey from Morbid Angel to talk to for years. And here we are having this conversation. It's such a privilege to talk to you, and I really hope through this conversation, which has been less of an interview and more of a conversation. I appreciate that. But, the reality is, man, you are the reason heavy metal is what it is today. And I can't thank you enough for it, because globally, man, you've helped. Michael, let me tell you, you don't realize, and you can't ever realize, because of how many people there are on the planet, how many people you've helped because you're a heavy metal guitarist. Because, man, life is tough at times. You know what I'm saying? Life can be difficult. But through your guitar playing, you have made people's lives infinitely easier. And that's my final point right there. Because you're you, and you play the guitar the way you do, you have made people's lives worth living in some cases. There you go.
Thank you so much. But I'll tell you one thing, I have to give all that credit to my creator, because I didn't say when I was going to be born, and I'm not going to be the one in charge when I have to leave. So there's something more that meets the eye. And so, the creator of all creations, the credit goes all to the master.
But thank you for recognizing that you had such a talent. That, because, mate, just quickly, I know we've got to go. A lot of people piss their talent away. You didn't. Do you understand what I'm saying? You recognized you had such a superb talent on the guitar from such a young age, back in the day when you started, mate, it wasn't Germany, it was called West Germany. And people don't realize how difficult it was back then. As I say, I'm in my 40s, and I get it, man. It was difficult. And when you were in Scorpions and when you made the jump across to UFO, none of it was easy. I get that, but you kept on going, and you kept on doing it. And I had a chat to Robin McCauley, about 18 months ago or so, man, and he was so complimentary about you and your guitar playing, man. You're a legend, and I'm just so grateful that you've done what you do, and it's such a privilege to finally talk to you, brother.
Thank you so much.
Good luck, and God bless, and I really hope we see you in Australia sometime soon.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Pleasure, mate. Catch ya. Bye.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series that syndicates for the A-List Online, and my name is Andrew Mackay-Smith. That interview subject there is the one and only, the great, the most influential guitarist over all of hard rock and heavy metal basically ever, alongside, really, Richie Blackmore and Tony Iommi. That was Michael Schenker. Thank you so much for listening.